Welcome to the Rescue, Rebuild, Restore podcast, where we equip church leaders and compassionate Christians to serve the hurting with spirit-led wisdom. I'm your host, Suzanne Burns, author of the book, Rescue, Rebuild, Restore, Compassion That Works. Together, we're going to explore how to rescue body and soul, rebuild spirit and will, and restore lives through the Holy Spirit's power. Because every person deserves to be seen, healed, and loved. Let's dive into today's episode and discover how to live out this calling. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Rescue, Rebuild, Restore podcast. As you can see, I am currently playing with a brain-shaped stress ball. I'm getting ready to head to a conference this week. My husband and I are actually leaving tomorrow. And so we're packing up the car, getting ready to head to church in just a little bit. And I wanted to record a quick episode because I'm just so passionate about this topic. We give these away at our events, these brains, and then I also have smaller ones as well. But I really want people to connect, be charity-wise, connect myself as an individual with the idea of brain science, with an understanding of how trauma and poverty mindset and addiction and mental health diagnoses all interact within the brains of the people that we're called to serve, and understanding science behind all of that, which so much is secular and very, very godless, seeing all of that science through a biblical lens. That's what I want people to connect with when they think of me, when they think of my ministry, or when they think of my coaching program, Be Charity Wise. I want them to think about brain science, biblical approach to brain science. So that was just a freebie. So this morning I'll talk about habits. And the thing that I'm going to be talking about this week is the emotional cycle of change. And that is one of the things that I talk about on a near weekly basis, whether I'm talking with my staff in the maternity home that I run, whether I'm talking about that with our clients, whether I'm talking about it with another ministry that I'm coaching or that I'm supporting throughout the United States, or whether I'm talking with church leaders or anybody who is feeling frustrated about why people keep going back to old habits, or just when they start getting some momentum going behind them, now they're going to just give up and quit. The problem is that is perfectly normal. That is absolutely what happens in our brains consistently and regularly. And so I want you to take a look at this. I'm going to show two slides today. The emotional cycle of change is one of them. And then the other one is kind of the habit cycle. So as you're looking at this emotional cycle of change graphic, I want you to pay careful attention to the trajectory. So everybody starts off in ignorant optimism, right? So this is the state when people first come in. Maybe you just got hired onto a new job. You don't know anything. You don't know where the lunchroom is. You don't know how we save files on our computers. You don't know who to go to for the good toilet paper or how to requisition pins or staples. You don't know anything, right? You don't know how to do your job because it's day one. And so you're excited, you're nervous, you're ignorant of everything. Our volunteers come in and they're in the same state. So they are ignorant. They know what we do in kind of in a loose way, like we help moms in crisis, we help babies. So we're a maternity home again. So they come in and they're like, oh, I'm gonna love on these moms. I'm gonna rock babies. It's gonna be glorious. And we have them, sorting clothes, and they don't actually see the moms, or we have them doing clerical work, or they're having to go through this big involved training on trauma, or they come in to put in their application and they hear somebody, shouting the F word down the hall, right? They are ignorant when they come in, but very quickly they start getting aware. And so now we have the known pessimism. So we know more things, and now we know the frustrations, right? It's no longer ignorant optimism that we're walking in, but now that we know a few things, now we're a little bit more frustrated. We're a little bit more disturbed. We're a little bit more unhappy about the true state of events, the realities of this job situation. We know more, and so now we can't rely back on our blissful ignorance. And so that trajectory, oftentimes people have an opportunity, they are going to land in the valley of despair regardless. They have an opportunity when they hit the valley of despair to either bail out and go do something different and head back to the ignorant optimism of a new job or of a new volunteer place. Well, just the other day, we had somebody who had come in, done her initial interview, and received the packet of a volunteer application and was supposed to be bringing that, completed back to us so we can do background checks and do all that kind of stuff. But then she calls. She had the interview on one day, got the volunteer packet, goes home, and then the very next day calls our office, very shaky, very upset, and says, I don't think I can do this. I don't think this is what I'm called to. And that's perfectly acceptable, right? We are not for everyone. She came in ignorant optimism. Oh, this is going to be great. I'm just going to love on these moms. It's going to be fun. I'm going to love these babies, whatever. She learns a little bit more, sees a little bit, sees what the girls really look like, who they really are, and goes home, thinks about it, presumably prays about it. Hopefully she prayed about it, and decided that, the things that I now know lead me to believe that this is not the place for me. Okay, cool, perfectly fine. There are plenty of other places that could use good, consistent volunteers, whether that's at the animal shelter, whether that's at another nonprofit downtown, whatever. There's plenty of other places if you want to get involved. When you hit the valley of despair, many, many people chase after that shiny object, that next new thing. Sometimes people hit the valley of despair and they stay in it for so long that they begin to get comfortable and complacent. And maybe they're doing what's come to be called quiet quitting, right? Where you do just the least possible. You do the barest minimum for your job to not get fired, but you're certainly not the stellar employee of the month. You're certainly not going above and beyond. You're doing as little as possible to not get fired. And personally, I would not want to live like that. To me, that's someone who has hit the valley of despair and stayed there. In my opinion, and I feel the same way about cheating on your spouse, there's a divorce for a reason. Why would you cheat? Why would you quiet quit when you can just quit? You can just go find you a new job. Why do these things that are so detrimental, not only to the other party, whether that's the job or your spouse or whatever, but they're detrimental to you as an individual. They are very, very harmful intellectually. That goes against your internal moral compass that we are all born with. It goes against your sense of self and your sense of pride of accomplishment. You're going against so much of who you see yourself to be when you do these kinds of things. Why? I don't understand it. But nevertheless, I see it. I see it regularly. I don't know why they choose to do it, but I do see it regularly and consistently. People just get comfortable and complacent right here in the valley of despair. Sometimes that's because maybe they have tendencies towards a naturally depressive mindset, or all sorts of medical reasons. Maybe they're low in some of the serotonin levels or dopamine or things like that are going on in their brain. But a lot of times the reasons why they're low in those chemicals are actually because they're in this situation. Like, it becomes a negative feedback loop. You're stuck in this boredom, which reduces your chemicals of excitement because you ain't excited, which makes you feel more bored, more depressed, which further inhibits your brain chemistry. And it's just this negative cycle. But that's not really the point of today's conversation. The point today is there is a small group of people who hit the valley of despair and recognize that they cannot go around, they can only go through. So you can leave the valley of despair and go start something new, or you can go through the valley of despair and make your way towards known optimism. So I know what this job is all about now. I know what it's like to love this person now. And I have committed to accepting that, right? I've committed to this. And so I'm going to enjoy myself. This is where we get to a place of success and fulfillment, when we're living in an understanding of who we were actually called to be, who we are actually supposed to be in this job, right? So think of it like volunteers are just the easy one for me to always pick on because they come through fairly quickly. But staff are like that. A new friend, even, let's say that. So you have a new friend that maybe the kids start playing at the playground and you're like, oh, this other mom seems nice. The kids are playing well. You start chit-chatting. You start hitting it off. Now we're kind of friends. And making that connection, right? We're in the place of ignorant optimism because we don't actually know each other yet. We only know a very slim, narrow piece of this other person. So then we get to know one another, right? Maybe we have dinner with our spouses, or we schedule a play date with the kids at one of our homes. And so now we're getting to know one another a little bit deeper. And so now here comes that known pessimism, right? So maybe after the other couple leaves, you and your spouse are having a conversation about, well, I didn't like this, or can you believe they did that? Or can you believe they didn't punish their kid when he was doing this? And you're having all of these conversations, right? So here's the place of the known pessimism. So now we know more, and now we're like, do I want to continue this relationship? Do I want to continue talking to these people? Do I want to continue this friendship? And that goes into the valley of despair, right? This is always the process. Always the process. There is never a scenario where you do something new and you do not have to go through the valley of despair. It simply doesn't exist. This is the only process for humans to go from ignorance to acceptance and success, period. So you get into the valley of despair. You're trying to decide, do I want to hang out with her again? Do I want to go back to the ballpark and play with the kids? What am I going to do? So some people will, write them off, never call them again, never initiate another thing. Sometimes you need to, right? I now know that I actually don't want to be friends with these people. These are not my people, right? That could be a legitimate response. So that's leaving the valley of despair and coming back up to the ignorant optimism, where we go make a new friend, right? We go find someone new to hang out with, which then leads back into known pessimism, which leads back to the valley of despair, and hopefully gives us an opportunity for a different decision, right? So we could also sit in the valley of despair and just kind of, we could play games, basically. Yeah, we can get together tomorrow. Oh, actually, I can't, or, I'm going to have to cancel, or, so we're just kind of like stringing them along, like we're being nice instead of kind. Kind would be, I don't want to have a relationship with you, so I'm going to cut it off cleanly and smoothly. Nice is, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want to have a relationship with you, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. So I'm just going to keep dragging you along, giving you little bits of my attention so that I don't feel badly. The concern is not for the other person. The concern is for you. You don't want them to be mad at you, but you don't want to be a friend with them. So who cares? That is staying stuck in the valley of despair. You see this in a lot of dating relationships, right? We broke up, but I'm going to keep responding to your texts, or I'm going to keep checking in on you. We're just kind of keeping that door open. It was an unpleasant relationship, but yet it was a relationship. And so I'm just going to keep that door open. And that's just hanging out there in the valley of despair. That's staying stuck in the valley of despair. Or the third option is moving through the valley of despair to known optimism. And sometimes relationships, you can say, hey, I did not like how you got onto my kid for what your kid started, or I'm not a wine drinker like you are, or whatever it is, whatever that clash that you discovered in the known pessimism, whatever that clash was, you address it and you deal with it here in known optimism on the other side of the valley of despair. And now we can move forward into building a strong relationship with these people that we care about and grow to care about, right? We grow in our relationship with them. So the same thing with a dating relationship. I don't want to be in this relationship, but I do want to be in a relationship. So I'm going to persevere. And as long as it's not abusive and harmful to me, then I'm going to continue to persevere, even though there are things that I'm discovering I don't particularly like about this person. If I deem them minimal, right? Like, there are things I don't like about my husband, and we've been married 23 years. I'm sure there are things he doesn't like about me. And again, we've been married 23 years. So no one is perfect. No relationship is without flaws. No person is without flaws, including ourselves. So there's always going to be things that we're like, I didn't know that about them. And so we have to go through that process of, am I going to leave? You know, whether that's chasing after a new shiny object, whether that's simply abandoning this scenario and starting back at ignorant optimism. Am I going to hang out down here in the valley of despair where we're just all unhappy together? Or am I going to push through the valley of despair and move towards known optimism, which ultimately then leads to success and fulfillment? That's the question that everybody has to answer. And I love talking through this concept because it makes so much more sense when we start to see clients or brand new church members, brand new saved, people who they reach that point of, oh, this is what it's about? You expect me to work for the church, or you expect me to work for my healing? You expect me to attend classes, or you expect me to stop doing certain things that I was doing before? Oh, I didn't know it was going to be like this, or I didn't know it was going to be this hard, or so many things like that. So many of those kinds of emotions. That is evidence of known pessimism and entering into the valley of despair. So now that you know your client or the newly saved or yourself or whomever is in the valley of despair, now you can talk about it. Yeah, it's hard. It's actually a lot harder. People say that all you have to do is accept Jesus into your heart and he'll forgive you and it's just glorious. I mean, that's not wrong. It is that easy to become saved. But it's the sanctification part, it's the becoming more Christ-like part that is hard. And that's where so many of us fall apart, right? So you can actually have a conversation about the fact that they're in the valley of despair and they have a choice. You can absolutely reject what Christ is inviting you into. You don't have to enter the kingdom of God. It is an option. It is a choice that you have to make. It involves your surrender to him as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And as King, he sets the laws of his domain, right? And so if you choose to be part of his kingdom, that means you're subjecting yourself to his authority. Right? You want to be a citizen of the United States of America. That means you are becoming subject to our laws as part of that, right? So the kingdom of God works the exact same way. You don't have to choose that. You don't have to accept that. You can go and live a life of rebellion however you want to. There are consequences to that, both physical and eternal, but nevertheless, you have that choice. So this is the conversation we can have here with someone who's in the valley of despair. Understand that you have the choice of what you're going to do while you're sitting here. Are you going to go back to ignorant optimism somewhere else? Are you going to stay down here in the valley of despair where, quite honestly, a lot of Christians are right here, where you're miserable, you know Jesus is Lord, but yet you won't give up the things that he's asked you to, so you just sit here in the valley of despair being miserable 24/7. That, I don't understand it. I've done it. I still don't understand it. Or third choice, are you going to persevere? Are you going to move through this? Allow Jesus to be the Lord and Savior of your life. Allow him to help you let go of whatever it is that's holding you back right now and move into known optimism and ultimately to that success and fulfillment. Hopefully that makes sense to you, not only in an organized setting like a nonprofit, like what I do, either with our volunteers or with our clients, or in the broader church world with any new believer or any new person that comes into your church. I've seen people leave one church because of the hypocrisy or cliques or backbiting or whatever, and come to a new church and be surprised that that stuff exists in this new church. I mean, like, hello, that's human nature. That is always going to be the case. Various churches try to stamp it out better, more effectively than others, so it is minimized in a lot of churches, but it still exists. Because we are humans, and it is always going to be part of a collective group of humans. It simply is what it is. So that's the emotional cycle of change. Now I want to talk about this habit cycle, which connects very similarly to the emotional cycle of change. That's the Kellyanne Conner emotional cycle of change. I don't want to neglect to give them credit for that. And then this diagram comes from someone, and I don't remember who, but I will have it in the description notes under this episode. So first, right here in the center, it says craving for distraction. That's the catalyst for everything that most people do. We're craving for distraction, so we're going to run to the mall and go shopping. We're bored, so we're going to, DM our ex-boyfriend or surf his social media to see if he's got a new girlfriend or see what he's up to, maybe before we send out a text message. We're bored, so we're going to do drugs, or we're going to go drink alcohol or do something. We're craving distraction. And so then comes that cue, that opportunity. And this is where our enemy of our souls is so good at presenting opportunities at the right time. So, you're bored, you're craving distraction, you're kind of missing your ex. And what happens? Your phone dings. And it's a text from that exact same person. Or a commercial comes on and you're bored, you're not hungry, but you're bored. And you've been trying to lose weight, but right now you really just want to run up to the Sonic and get the shake that they're advertising on TV, or go to the mall because they're advertising a big sale at the department store, or things like that. You get a cue that is connected to your craving. And at any other time, you wouldn't necessarily succumb to it, right? At another point in the day, you might have been able to see that commercial for ice cream and have been strong enough to say, no, I am intentional about weight loss. I am focused on this. I do not want to go. I do not want that. But right now, you're craving that distraction. You're craving something. That's when the commercial airs. And now you're like, where are my keys at? I guess that's the enemy's skill, is probably a better term. That's where he really shines, in providing opportunities for us to fail, providing opportunities for us to fall. And so we get that cue, and then what's up here up top? Routine. What is our common habit? Eating the ice cream, responding back to our ex, going and shopping and spending money we don't actually have because it makes us feel better. We have that routine, that habit. And because that's a habit, we know that on the backside of that, we're going to get that dopamine reward of the taste of the ice cream, or the joy, the pleasure of feeling confident and beautiful in the clothes that we're picking out at the mall, or feeling like a good person because we're buying this for someone else as a gift. Or we get that reward of, I am still loved and lovable, by responding to the text message from our ex, right? All of those things lead to a reward that is unhealthy, but nevertheless, it is a reward. When people do things, it is always because we know that there's going to be a reward, even if that reward is counterproductive to our actual goal. The reward in and of itself is independent of the goal. That's the difference in instant gratification versus delayed gratification, right? If I'm wanting to lose weight and I go have ice cream, that's instant gratification. I may have guilt, shame, regret. I may feel bloated. I may feel all of these negative things afterwards, but I got that reward of the sugar, of the pleasure of eating that. I got that reward. That was the instant gratification. And then I have the negative consequences, right? Whereas with delayed gratification, I'm wanting to lose weight. So I persevere and I do not have the ice cream. Well, now I have the negative consequences right now, right? I'm missing out. I really want that. I'm feeling the cravings. I'm feeling disappointed. I'm, feeling all sorts of emotions. But then over time, I have the delayed gratification of actually losing the weight that I wanted to. So that reward on the backside of your action has a lot of weight behind it. That delayed gratification does not have the weight behind it. The instant gratification gives a lot of weight because it's right now. I want it right now. Therefore, I'm going to do the things that I don't want to do because it's going to give me the reward right now. And that is a pattern that we as humans, we all go through it. It may be different for each person. Maybe it's pornography for someone, or maybe it's, a sexual sin, or it could be so many different things, and it's unique for each person. But nevertheless, what we're looking at is that same cycle. You're primed for distraction. You're craving distraction here in the center. You get the cue, the opportunity. Oh, I could do this. Sometimes it's just a thought that comes into your head. Oh, I wonder what blizzards are on this month at Dairy Queen, or I wonder what my ex is doing. And so I'm going to kind of open myself up to look for cues that can lead me to the routine behavior that I really am wanting to do. And so that's why it's so hard to break old habits, because those habits became routine for a reason, because they give us a reward, right? Think of it in, let's say, an anger response. I'm craving distraction, so I'm looking for somebody to be angry at. I'm already in a foul mood, and I'm just looking for a reason to go off on somebody. Well, I promise you, if you exist in our world, there is a reason, there is an opportunity for you to go off. Whether it's you climbing over the fast food counter to go beat somebody up, whether it's you beating on one of your kids, whether it's you yelling at the Verizon people on the phone, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whether it's you just in the parking lot or on road rage or whatever, it doesn't matter. There is an opportunity for you to be furious with someone if you want to. That's your natural habit, and that's what your brain is seeking after, is that routine of anger response. And that gives quite a reward. If you've ever been angry at that level, you feel the rage, you feel the emotion, it's adrenaline. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not at all saying these are good things. I'm simply saying that you're getting your reward. And it's that heightened emotion. It's the dopamine and the adrenaline that's coursing through your body. It could also be a place of self-pride, especially if you're hitting someone or you're in a physical fight. It could be so many different things that are leading to that reward response, even while it's unhealthy. And that's the thing that has to be broken in order for you to change your habits. When you have a habit, a routine that you don't like and want to break it, the one thing you have to figure out first is, what is my reward behind this behavior? And once you figure that out, then you can address it. And then you can begin breaking unhealthy habits and building new habits, because new habits require a new reward. And if you can understand the reward that you're receiving, then you can begin breaking that old habit and creating a new habit that feeds not only the instant gratification, but also the delayed gratification that you ultimately want. So let me know what you think in the comments below or shoot me an email. I would love to hear your thoughts on either the emotional cycle of change or this habit cycle, because I personally think it is so fascinating that I love teaching about it. I love talking about it. I spend a lot of my time each week going through it. And if you want one of the brains, just shoot me an email. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on the Rescue, Rebuild, Restore podcast. I pray this episode has equipped you to serve with greater clarity and compassion. If you're ready to go deeper, grab a copy of Rescue, Rebuild, Restore, Compassion That Works on either Amazon or at rescuerebuildrestore.com. And while you're there, you can also join our Rescue, Rebuild, Restore Compassion Collective.